Welcome back to another episode. I am sitting in front of who I consider, I guess, a mentor for a while and someone that I truly look up to. I am not only excited to have her on the podcast, but I'm really excited for her to share her insights about wealth, real estate, mindset, most importantly. Every time I've had the opportunity to sit down with Seher, I feel like I'm sitting down with someone and really learning their operating system, how they perform, their habits. So we're going to get really deep in that. But first, I owe you guys an official introduction. So let's do that. So we are talking today to Seher Mahmood, who is a CEO of her company called My Condo Source. She is pretty much known in the real estate industry in Toronto as the real estate mogul. If you see a bunch of guys sitting down, you'll always see her present because she's probably one of the only real estate disruptor, I call it, in the area of real estate and pre-construction that has literally made it. She's unapologetic in every single way. She takes up a lot of space. She's loud. She says what's on her mind, and she's not shy about it at all. I get to call her a friend. I've worked with her in the past, and what I have learned from her and what I hope that you guys learn from her as well today is her high impact mindset, her magnetic presence, and she has built quite a following online as well, which we'll get into. But the deepest part of her story, which I really relate to, is that she is a first-generation immigrant, also a fellow Pakistani. Seher today is going to share her journey from, I wouldn't say broke, but being in debt to literally building a thriving real estate empire. So with that being said, Seher, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, that was such an intro. Thanks for having me here, Huda. I'm so happy to be here.
How do you feel about that intro?
I think it's probably one of the most elaborate, beautiful intros I've ever had.
Does it make you like reflect back in your life when you hear it over and over again, right? You've been on so many podcasts, you do a lot of speaking, but have you taken a moment to like sit back and see all that you've accomplished?
I think it's because you know me personally, where a lot of my podcasts are with people who don't know me as well. So I think like you kind of like really know my story already. So you're able to come up with that.
It's inspiring to see from someone that's worked with you and see you. But can we start with where you come from?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're both Pakistani. Our culture has sometimes a really big block for a lot of people. Yeah. So you came here on your own. Can we rewind back? Can you share that?
Yeah, so I basically came here on my own as an international student. Once I graduated, I had to go through all my own immigration myself. I couldn't even afford to get a lawyer. I did all the paperwork manually myself.
Oh, wow.
I was on a work permit making $1,200 a month. And to get a work permit, just so you know, you have to actually have a minimum salary of $35,000. And I was basically getting paid on paper and then giving cash back to the company. And that's how broke I was. I was renting a room for $300 a month and surviving on the rest from my $1,200 paycheck.
Wait, two questions here. Where did you find a room for $300 a month?
Heel and Finch.
No
Back
way.
in the day, yeah. Yeah, so it was very, very hard times. There was definitely a lot of struggle there. And, you know, at that point of my life, I was actually very grateful because I was like, at least I get to stay in the country. So I wasn't, my mindset was already developing from there where, you know, a lot of people would be like, what is this? This corporation is taking advantage of me. But basically, it's a lot easier to immigrate now. But back then, you had to prove that you have a skill set that nobody else has. So it's very difficult because, you know, as an undergrad, what are you doing that other Canadians can't do? So this company was willing to say that, you know, because of my bilingual status in Urdu and Hindi, I was valuable to them and so forth. But being desi, they said they didn't want to pay me what it takes. So I was kind of like doing the under the table thing.
So wait, they paid you on paper and then you're like, here you go?
Yeah.
What was your job?
Accounting. I was doing bookkeeping at that time. So I was actually very grateful because I'm like, you know what? Once I get my paperwork, the world is my oyster. So once I got my immigration, I was like, oh my God, here you go. I can do whatever I want. I said, let me go get my MBA at that point. So I went to RBC. I was eligible for a loan because now I did have my paperwork. I graduated in the middle of the financial crisis in 2008 with a degree in finance. It was the absolute worst time to have a degree in finance, and I couldn't get a job. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? I struggled for 2 years. I was doing small little gigs like modeling part-time and things like that.
I remember our modeling days.
Yeah. So nothing that was really like, you know, elevating me. So I, you know, in 2011, one of my friends had seen me struggling for a few years and they said, Seher, like, I don't know what you're good at, but like, why don't you become a real estate agent? They don't really do anything. They just go in and out of houses and turn lights on and off. And I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I should do that. And it wasn't, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I wanted to be in control of my own business, my own schedule, and my own life essentially. So I said, you know what? Fine. This doesn't cost so much. I'm already 80,000 in debt. It's a few $1,000s more. It's going to take 6 months of my time. So I went ahead and I got my real estate license as much as I didn't want to at that point. And I said, now it's all up to me and there's no turning back from this point. So I got my real estate license and I'm happy. I joined a brokerage, and on my drive to the brokerage, I see all these billboards of all these agents saying they're number one. So I get to the office on my first day and I had a meeting with my broker. I said, how is it that all these agents outside, everybody's claiming to be number one?
Yeah, like,
I want to be one of those now. And he's like, well, do you have a large database? I said, nope. I actually came here as an international student. I have no family here. I didn't grow up here, so I don't really know that many people. I know a few people from university, but a lot of them have now gone back. And he said, well, do you have money to advertise? I said, nope, I'm actually $80,000 in debt. He's like,
winning
what?
formula.
He's like, where do you want to focus your business? Which area? And I didn't want him to even know that I didn't know the difference between King East and King West. So he said, well, here's what you need to do. You need to go out there and meet 5 new people every single day and build a database. And I'm thinking to myself, where do I go and meet 5 new people every single day? So I thought that the best course of action was to go on a super glamorous website called Kijiji and Craigslist and look for people there. So every single day I would wake up, I had no listings of my own. So I would post other people's listings on those 2 websites and look for rental clients. And that's how I built my business my first year. I would wake up, I would post those listings, and I would host an open house every single day from 6 to 7 and from 7 to 8 at 2 different units. And at the end of that year, I'd done 120 rentals and met 3,500 people who are now in my database who are looking to buy, sell, or rent real estate. And it was actually the best thing that I could have done for myself at that time, because I got to know every single building inside out, every single floor plan inside out. I learned how to talk to clients. Like, I had no experience coming from, Pakistan. It's a very conservative society. Women are not even interacting with men at a high level, let alone like clients. So, it was actually the best training I could have given myself. And I built this amazing database, and everybody wants to do something glamorous in real estate. So I went the opposite way and did something very unglamorous, which was hunting for people on these 2 websites that nobody would ever want to go on.
I mean, how did you even get the idea to go on Kijiji and Craigslist?
So there was another agent in the office, and he was kind of doing the same thing. And he was part of like the team that I joined at that time. And he was doing rentals, and he said, oh, I'm making $10,000 a month. And to me, I was like, if I can make 100 grand my first year, like that's what I was aiming for. I only wanted to make 100 grand because my mind did not allow me to think beyond that. I thought that if I can hit 6 figures, I am a success, and I've made it. Because I was coming from a $1,200 a month salary. So when you look at it in that perspective, I was 10xing my income. So I hit that my first year, and then I thought, you know what? Like, I'm going to keep doing this for the rest of my career. I've made it. I've achieved all my goals, and this is what I'm going to do. One day, I was back on Kijiji and Craigslist, and I'm looking at all, these listings and stuff, and I called this broker. I noticed that the same agent had 5 units in the same building. So I called him up, and I said, how is it that you have 5 listings in the same building with different landlords? I was like, to me, he was like my superstar. And he said, it's because I sell pre-construction. And I'm like, what's pre-construction? And he's like, selling the building before it's built. And I said, I don't know what that is, but that's what I want to do. So he kind of gave me the gist of what it is. And he said, you know what? I have a project that's coming up next weekend. It's a building at Yonge and Eglinton. And if you have clients, you can go through me and bring your buyers there. At this point, I'd never sold a unit in my life. I was just doing rentals. He's like, do you have buyers? I said, of course I have buyers. So I basically said, you know what? I have 7 days to figure out where to find these buyers from. I went back into my rental database and I called every single one. I had lots and lots of numbers to call. And, people have this notion that because somebody is a renter, that they don't have money. This is very, very far from the truth. And it's a lesson that I learned so fast. people are not renting because they don't have money. People are sometimes renting because of the situation in their life. There were CEOs who'd come here from New York. They're just here on a 1 year contract. They're not going to buy. They're just going to rent a nice spot and go back, right? Or people who are renting a downtown condo for the week, and then on the weekend they go back home to their families. There's a lot of people renting for many, many different reasons. And what I found was there was a lot of wealthy people in my database. So at that event, I'd made a deal with him that I'm going to bring these people in because I had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't even know how pre-construction worked. I'd never looked at an APS in my life, nor did I know the project.
By the way, guys, APS is an agreement of purchase and sale, which is what you get when you purchase real
Yes.
estate.
So I had no idea what that was. He said, just bring the people. Once they walk in the door, let me talk to them. You just don't say anything. And by the end of that weekend, I closed 7 deals. So I was like blown away at that. I was like, wow, I did 7 deals in 1 weekend from never doing a sale in my life. And that was the day that I decided that I want to go out there and be the best pre-construction agent out there, or as close to that as I can get. And, I also realized that success is not something that happens to you. It happens because of you and the actions that you take and the work that you put in. And that's what really started my journey into pre-construction.
My God, Seher, that's like, I want to go into so many different ways with everything that you shared, but I want to rewind back quite a bit, okay? Because I feel like what you just described is straight up like shark mentality, like true in all fashion. I would say like a good salesperson, that's the kind of mindset they have. They're hunters from the beginning. And what you described to me, like you just said, I came here, I worked a job, and then right away I just like knew exactly what I wanted. But that probably has a lot to do with not just your mindset, but like culturally and even how you were raised and grown up. Can you share a little bit about like your family and how you were raised? Did that play an important part on the mindset and the person you've become now? Or was that a blockage? Because I'm going to share this from my own experience in our culture, right? Being Muslim, being Pakistani, there's so many things that really rob us from becoming the ultimate versions of us, from religion to social boundaries to culture. So I guess I want to know like what came in the way and what mindsets did you develop from a young age?
So when I was raised, I was actually very lucky because at that point, my parents were actually wealthy. So I grew up with a lot of privilege and I was able to grow up with having everything handed to me. I never thought in my life that I would be in the position that I was put into in the year 2000, where I was told that we have no more money because people didn't, myself, our own family, like we didn't know that like my dad's business was going down. So I grew up as a teenager, very privileged, but all of a sudden I'm in university. I actually went to the States for 2 years and I was private school there. My dad said, I can no longer afford your tuition. Here's $18,000 and you need to make this work for the rest of your education. I said, $18,000? That's how much a semester costs. I need to do 2 more years, which is 4 semesters. And they're like, you got to figure it out. So from there, I was in deep shock, but I quickly pivoted and I said, what can I do to finish my education somehow? I knew it wasn't happening in the States. So that's how I actually came to Canada. And I finished my last 2 years here because it's a lot cheaper to go to school here. So even as an international student, I was able to make the math work. So once I graduated, I'd finished the $18,000 that I had, and I was pretty much back at zero. But I was at least grateful that I'm in this country. And I think that because I had everything that I needed growing up, I needed to figure out a way of how do I get back there? I can no longer rely on daddy's money, nor do I just want to marry a rich guy, which would be the other option. I was like, I need to do this myself and I need to do it fast. And I wasn't able to do it fast. It took me years and years to become successful because I had to go through all those steps. So now people can log on to my Instagram and they'll be like, oh, wow, this is like successful broker, but they don't see the 10 years of struggle that I had to figure my life out on how to even get there to that stage.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, most of the time it is the 10-year, the 15-year, and what people see is what they see. That's what I want to debunk. I want to walk the audience and people that are listening to go through that period of 10 years. So one thing I find really interesting that I'm glad you brought up, you came up with money, you were in a wealthy family, and most of the time you're the opposite story, right?
Yeah.
Coming from nothing.
Yeah.
What did growing up with money and wealth teach you, number one? And what did your dad running a business embed in you at an early age?
Well, I think seeing my dad work really hard, like he would be gone by like 8 a.m. and he would come back after sunset. So I did see he was in shipbreaking, and like where he was doing it was an hour and a half drive. So he would leave early, he would come back late. So I did definitely see how hard he worked, and that definitely was embedded into me. But however, the mindset that I was growing up in was very like, you're just gonna grow up and get married or live with your family. So I didn't have that push from there. I think that really came from me internally when I was struggling to finish my education. I said, this is my one shot at being successful. And if I mess this up, I might not have another shot at ever making money again.
Yeah.
So it was that desperation situation
Desperation.
that I was put in that really, really pivoted my mindset that like I want to be, no, I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. How
Yeah.
can I do that?
Yeah. What did you learn about money and wealth at an early age?
I learned about money and wealth that it allows you, it's not about the zeros in your bank account, but it's about the freedom that it allows you. So, when you have money, you can do the things that you actually really love. And that's something that's transferred into my adult life now. Because now that I'm successful, money, when you're struggling, all you're thinking about is how can I pay my bills? How can I pay my rent? How can I put food on the table and so forth? Now I'm actually able to not focus on that, but think about how can I use my resources to do the things I truly love and bring in that passion and what's my purpose in my life and how can I build a legacy? So being able to build this empire, if you want to call it that, has allowed me to really dive into that. And that's how I've been focusing on my charity for the last 3 years in Mexico with the animals.
I know
I've been doing
it's
spay and neuter clinics, and there's so much that I've been doing and being able to give back because of the situation that I had put myself in. But if I said that my love is for animals and I started to base my career on that, I might have not been successful. So I thought, what can I do that will make me successful, that will now allow me to pursue my passion?
yeah. Okay, so here I wanna differentiate here because I think you brought up a really good point. A lot of people, especially in today's society, follow passion, follow passion.
Yeah.
Your passion is actually helping animals, which you are doing now, but you're
Yeah.
doing it with a lot more freedom. So when
Yes.
you started real estate, would you say it was a passion, or were you like, I'm good at this and I'm gonna pursue this till the end of time?
No, like I was saying before, I got into real estate purely by chance. I didn't get into real estate because I loved real estate. I got into real estate because the doors were shut on me on every aspect that I looked at, and I thought of it as like maybe the only way out with very little money in. But like I said, when I got into real estate, I realized that I love it because it makes I'm not an employee anymore. Because remember, I was an employee for 3 years, and I said I don't want to be on anybody else's schedule. I don't want to get promoted. When they decide to move me up the corporate ladder, entrepreneurship allows me this allows me the ability to be able to create my own future, to create my own wealth, and there's no ceiling on what I can achieve. There's also no floor. So you need to figure it out pretty fast because, if you don't take the right steps, you can dig yourself in an even bigger hole.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that I was able to be my own boss and create my own business and take it to the next level, which I hadn't seen in my work history before. And that was what got me to real estate. So it wasn't about following my passion, it was following the fact that I knew I wanted to be successful and real estate was the avenue to get me there.
Yeah, and I think for anyone listening where you're confused between passion and actually doing something that you're good at, here's a great example of
Yeah.
being able to pursue passion after you've harnessed that skill that you're really good at. Saying you've built an empire is truly saying you've built an empire because it shows not just materialistically, but the fact that you travel, you've got a lifestyle, and you really embody the person that you wanted to become.
Yeah.
I also find that women that are extremely confident and know what they want, something very what's the word, like intimidating to deal with, right? Do you find that the person that you are now is accumulation of all the experiences that have been taught, but also working in a man's world, I guess, at that time? Like even that real estate agent guy telling you, hey, like bring me the clients, don't talk to them, I'll talk to them,
Right.
right? Do you find that you've become this person and you've had to be a little bit more aggressive to get what you want as a woman?
I think definitely in pre-construction, it is a male-dominated industry. So you do have to be very resilient, very persuasive. You really gotta play with the big boys, so to speak, right? So you do have to have that certain personality, and they don't love it, but at the end of the day, that's what it takes in that industry to be successful, because it is a very, very cutthroat man's world. So I realized very quickly that if I want to hit the numbers that I'm trying to hit, I have to not be that timid little Pakistani girl that came here. I need to be like what it takes to be a big boss. And that's the only way that I'm going to build the business that I've built today.
Yeah, I'm not going to say big dick energy. I'm going to say big boss energy, okay? Because that's what you just said. I'm just being real, right? Because the energy of who we are, people can feel it and people can see it.
Yeah.
So if going back again to
Yeah.
you building those building blocks, those building stages. So you finished your first year, you said 100 rentals?
Yes.
Girl,
So-
that is insane.
so
Wait,
I
wait,
did-
I just want to pause. That's fucking insane. Like, what were you like? Were you running around? Were you like on a high?
No, not at all. So like I said, I built my rental business very strategically. I wasn't doing rentals the way people do rentals now that I see them, where they're taking one person and showing them 5 different units.
Okay.
Like I said, I was posting one listing every single morning that I would be at from 6 to 7. Another listing that I would pick that was very close by. It was in downtown, so everything was like 5 minutes away. And I'd pick another listing. I would host open houses, and people would come to me. I wouldn't go to anybody. So what started happening was I would have sometimes 15 people in that 1 hour that I met. Somebody would put in an application, then I'd go to my next open house on the rental and put another application. So there was nights where I was getting like 3, 4, 5 offers from tenants, and at least one would get accepted, if not more. So it was a very, very strategic way that I did things to make my business efficient at that time. And I took what I learned from there and then I transferred it to sales. The next year, I was like, I'm going to do pre-construction, right? And I started to dive into the projects, and I did 100 sales because I was already used to
Wait, stop, girl, stop. You did 100 rentals in your year one.
and
then
200 and 100 sales in my year two.
I need to close my mouth. Okay, but what?
Yeah. So I basically took those rental clients and I started to turn them into sales. And from there, I said, who do you know? Do you have family who might be interested? Do you have somebody that you could bring along with you? So I got a lot of business out of that. And then I started to take what I was making from the sales. And the other thing that I did was I invested back into my business. So at that point, I started to see that what are all the top agents in the industry doing? I don't want to look at the mediocre agents. I want to see what are the top people doing. I saw that they were doing seminars, they were advertising on TV, they were advertising on radio. This is a time where social media wasn't a thing. So people were doing the traditional forms of advertising, radio, TV, billboards, and a lot of them were doing Google ads. So I said, let me pick one niche in the advertising space and really, really focus on that because I had a limited budget, and I picked Google ads. And that's where I started building like a very, very thriving career. I became very good at converting online leads.
Was this just you by this time, or did you have a team?
It was just
you.
me. It was just me till 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so for 5 years, I did it on my own. I did 100 sales my first year, 200 sales every year after that on my own before I built the team.
Okay, so for the audience that's not in real estate, right? Like 100 sales, what does that equal to in terms of dollar amount? I want you guys to hear this because the numbers are insane.
So I would say $1.5 million.
That was year 2.
Yeah,
So you went from 100 leases, which was how much in revenue?
like around 100K.
100K to $1 million jump in year 2.
Yeah. And then I was growing after that. And then once I started the team, we were doing up to 450 units a year.
That's
so now,
absolutely
I mean,
insane.
the revenue doesn't just keep going
Yeah.
up the same way because now you have like staff to feed and I had like agents to pay and so forth. But like when I made my first million, I said, I'm never looking back. And I never have. I've never made less than 7 figures in my entire career after that day. So and I that was the new standard that I accepted for myself. So it's about how can you visualize? Because like I told you in year 1, all I wanted to do was make 100 grand. I thought if I can hit 6 figures, I've made it. I couldn't even fathom the fact that somebody can make $1 million. It wasn't in the realm of my imagination. But that first year, when I saw these other agents and that agent who helped me do those sales, I said, how much are you making? And they're making 7 digits. I said, that's become my new norm now. Because the
Wow.
people that you surround yourself with, that's what you're going to start earning also. Because if you're surrounding yourself with 6 agents who are making 100K, guess what? You're going to make 100K.
Yeah.
You're going to have somebody who's making 80. They're going to say, you're a superstar. You're making 100. I wanted to be around $1 million agents who are like, oh, you make 100? Like, let me help you a little bit. Let me tell you what to do. So that's the energy that I wanted to surround myself with. And I never looked back because you kind of embody the energy of the people that
Totally.
you're around.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like you set a new benchmark
A
for
new
yourself,
benchmark
the
for
new
yourself.
standard, and then your mind and you operate it that way. Question for you: when did you say to yourself, Seher, you made it? Like, was it when you made that $1 million? Was it when you did the 200 deals? Or have you even said that to yourself yet?
I haven't said that to myself. To me, money is just a figure in your bank account. So, what I was able to do with it is obviously great. I bought myself 20 pre construction properties. So, I have a lot of, real estate out there. But that's not really what drove me.
And a Lamborghini. Can we just say that, please? I don't know any other girl in Toronto driving a Lambo. And I'm not saying this from a materialistic standpoint. Let's just look back at the fact that almost every single time you see someone driving a supercar,
Right.
it's almost always a man, right?
Right.
And then the fact that you sit in there and the fact that you drive it, it opens up another woman's mind to say that it can. And
Yeah.
I think that is the point here, right? Like when I talk about money, when I talk about wealth, it's really to one, embody it, say that we want to make more, but then seeing someone
Right.
actually live it, breathe it. It's not your entire identity. Like I don't think the Lambo
Right.
makes who you are. It's the
Right.
10 years of hard work you put in.
Right.
But visually being able to see someone do that inspires another woman to be like, I want to be the next top agent or I want to do this. And then being able to
100%. Nobody was ever impressed by the units that I bought, but everybody wanted the car.
And how do you feel about that? Like, was that did you, when you went to go purchase that, being able to like put all your hard work and be like, wow, I can actually afford this? Did you feel like you were breaking cycles, generational cycles? What did that feel like for you?
No, because I was living in that world with the top agents surrounding me, and all of them had that. All those guys had those things. So for me, it was like, you know what? I'm going to do it too. So I didn't think of it like that. But what I do think that the freedom that the money gave me elevated me in different ways. So I was volunteering at the Tobacco Humane Society when I was still a new agent, before I was like making the numbers that I was making. And I remember very, very clearly charities don't make much money, by the way.
Yeah.
Tobacco
I
Humane
worked for one.
Society
They never made any
has
money.
like a very, very low budget and they're
Yeah.
barely scraping by. They'd come up with this Valentine's Day program for the animals where you can like buy the dogs and cats a heart, and they were like trying to raise funds like that. And I was volunteering there. It was my shift, and I was like, how many hearts did we sell all week? And they're like, we sold 5 hearts. They only made $25 from this initiative that they had. And I basically took out my credit card and I bought every single heart that they had space off for. You basically buy a heart and you put it on the wall, you name it. I bought the entire wall. And that was the first time that I was like, you know what? The fact that I can do that for this charity that I volunteer at was very powerful for me. The Lamborghini never gave me that feeling. The purchases of the condos never gave me that feeling.
Wow.
But being able to help that charity that I was putting 4 years of my time into and being able to do something more than just clean the kennels really, really gave me that sense of purpose and that sense of satisfaction that, wow, I've actually been able to do something that can really like make me feel good and help them as well. And I would say
Yeah.
that was the first time that I felt
I love that you said that, because I think just being able to say that it wasn't the Lambo, it wasn't the cars, it wasn't the property, but what money did for me is me being able to create impact. And I see so much of that work that you do. I think that's the other thing, right? I think I've had so many conversations with other guests that have been here that
Yeah.
money is energy and women don't think they're worthy of it or they deserve it. But I want to talk to you about what happens when you do think you're worthy of it and you do get it. Look at the impact it creates, right? So the fact that you can help animals be able to like pay a charity and feel
Yeah.
good inside, that is invaluable. No one can take that feeling away from you. So that's really, really incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, I was like, how can I keep growing that impact into what I want even further? And that's why I started creating that charity in Mexico. And, to date, I've rescued over 450 dogs and cats. So
Wow.
it's a big number.
huge
And to be
milestone.
able to put that time and energy into organizing that spay and neuter event every December, it takes me a month of my time. listen, when you're broke, you can't do that. You can't put that kind of energy and time into something that you really love. So, excelling in my real estate career really opened up the avenue of what truly drives me.
Yeah.
And I would say
What
that would be my success more than anything else.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have like so many questions for you, but what is a broke mindset do you think a lot of women have that they can't really like move past?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts down with your mindset, and it's so true. So, when I started real estate, I was like, I'm doing these rentals, and I'd save some money because, like I said, I was used to living on so little. When I made that 100K, I'd saved up like a big chunk of it because my lifestyle at that time was very, very basic. So I said, what are the top agents doing? The top agents are investing in themselves. The number one thing that I see realtors doing right now is they don't want to spend money. They want to get into the business, they want to be an excellent real estate agent, but if they on day one, if you say, hey, are you willing to put your life savings and invest it back into yourself? They'll say, oh, no, 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 we're not willing to do that. They just want clients to drop out of the sky after they just post one social media video, but it doesn't work like that. So I think the abundance mindset has to really be there. So for me, that's what I really, really focused on because I didn't come from a space where I was thinking in terms of scarcity. I wasn't coming from the notion that there's not enough clients out there, there's not enough business out there. Oh my God, pre-construction is already being dominated by these same 10 faces. I didn't think like that. I was like, we're living in this city of like 6 million people. There's enough clients for everybody to go around. I just have to find them and I have to figure out how to find them. So once I'd figured out that I'm going to do X form of advertising, I was willing to reinvest every dollar that I had in my bank account back into advertising. It wasn't even 50%. I said, I'm going to go all in because what's the worst that can happen? The worst that's going to happen is I take my 50 grand and nothing comes out of it, right? And I go back to zero, which I was already in a few months ago, and I go back to doing rentals. So I was thinking, but if I don't do that, what's going to happen? That 50 grand made me $1 million my first year. But if I didn't have that mindset of being able to go all in 100%, I would have never been able to reach those numbers because I wouldn't even have known. I would have been too scared. I would have been in that scarcity mindset. And I think that's where people really, really get stuck. So you have to go out there and say, there's enough out there for everyone to eat. There's enough time in the day. You have to see that, you have to think that there's enough resources for everybody. And that's what's going to really make you excel.
Yeah, scarcity versus abundance. I think it really shows in your career. Your circle, the women that you hang out with, outside of real estate as well, what are they like and what are you seeing women struggle with? If you have any women in your circle that are struggling, what do you think blocks us? Like, why are we not able to be as abundant and as rich and as powerful as we can be? Because I think every woman has it inside of her, but a lot of us are paralyzed with fear, right? It holds us back. And the women that are successful in whatever area, they're successful because they're every day conquering that fear.
Yeah.
What do you notice in your circles and the women you hang out with? Because I know you're in the industry a lot too, but then you also have a private social life.
Right. So I would say within the industry, I'm very lucky because I am surrounded by other top women who are also excelling in the field. But when I look at my own friend circle, like they're doing well, but I don't think that everybody's putting everything that they have into their careers at all. I think a lot of people are just waiting for something to happen and fall into their lap. Or maybe we get married to somebody who's wealthy, or we're going to take that other step into like, maybe we have a baby and become complacent. Whereas I've seen in the pre-construction space, like, one of the top women in the industry actually has 2 kids and she's killing it out there. And her brokerage has grown in, 8 years from 6 agents to over 1,200.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's incredible.
So there are people who can do it. So I think it comes back to that mindset of what are the expectations you put for yourself in your life? And that's what you're going to achieve. Because if you don't have the goals and you're not working backwards, it's not going to just happen and fall into your lap.
Yeah. I was also going to say, by you answering that question, it's when I asked you, you're like, well, I hang out with mostly top performers. Our environment dictates who you become. And every time I've had a conversation with you, you are constantly surrounded by the top performing or the people that have made it or on their way to success.
Yeah.
How can someone that doesn't have the right environment, right, get into places where they can up level and they can attract those opportunities. Do you believe environment is everything? Do you think that's what excelled your growth as well?
I think for sure environment is everything. So if you're in any business that you're in, okay, if you're new, I would say mentorship is very, very important. So could you look for a mentor in that industry that's willing to help you? And some people might say, well, how am I going to get somebody to mentor me? Do things for free for them.
People are not willing to do those
People are
things.
not willing to do that anymore. But I'm saying that's what it takes. You need to be able to give somebody something for them to give something back to you. So are you willing to intern for free to learn? I had a girl intern with me, and she said those 6 months she learned the most that she's than 5 years of her
Oh,
career
I'm
before
proof.
that.
I learned more from being on
Right.
your
So
team
you
than I ever have in my real estate career,
Right. So you need to be around the right people who are going to excel your growth, and you need to stop looking at the short term pain to look at the long term gain. And I think that's what's really, really important. So, how can you get yourself into the right rooms? By saying, what can I offer you that's going to help you? So, if you show some value to them, it could be something as simple as being their coffee holder, okay? It doesn't have to be something big, but you need to be able to surround yourself with those people for sure. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I met that agent that first weekend, who was doing my pre-construction sales for me, I learned and absorbed everything that he was saying so fast. In 1 week, I was able to do it on my
Wait,
own.
have you met that agent again after that?
Oh yeah, I see him around all the time. He's like, I knew you'd be. I knew
He's
you'd
like, I
be
knew
who
you
you
were.
are. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you said something about like short-term sacrifice for long-term game, right?
Yes.
You built your business pre-social media. I want to get into that because
Yeah.
not just in our industry, not just in real estate, but almost everyone thinks that by being on social, they can build a massive business. But what specifically relating back to sales, right? Like I grew up 20 years of sales, and I think sales taught me everything there is to know.
Yeah.
And with you building a real estate career, thriving in your real estate career, the sales skills that you developed pre-social media, what did that activity look like? Like, and what type of skills, sales skills in particular, would you suggest a woman to develop? Was it communication? Was it patience? Was it interaction? Was it energy? Like, what skill sets do you think?
So I think the rentals, first of all, gave me the sales skills in terms of like areas and buildings and being able to navigate around different problems with different clients. So I got a lot of interaction experience there. So that really excelled my career because I did 100, when I did 100 rentals, I'd met 3,500 people that
That's
I'd
a
interacted
lot.
with. So, it takes some people their entire career to interact with that many people. So that really helped me socially, I would say. But when I got into pre-construction, I was on the phones. I wasn't actually meeting people. I was doing online advertising and making cold calls. So what I did for myself was really excel in what I was selling. I learned everything about the project, the area, the demographics of the neighborhood. What are the rentals? What are the sales? What schools are there? What is the traffic count in that area? So I really became an expert in the entire neighborhood that I was selling. And I think that's what really helped me because I made pre-construction my niche. I focused on it and I dove even further into that niche by just focusing on one area. So the mistake that a lot of realtors make, which I found, is they become a realtor and, one day they're showing a commercial property, one day they're doing a rental, one day they're showing a house in Brampton for sale, one day they're trying to do pre-construction, one day they're doing, like they have no focus and you're jack of all trades, master of nothing. I didn't do any of that. I said my niche is going to be now pre-construction real estate, and then I niched it further into the neighborhood, and that's what I'm selling. So that first year, all my sales were in one neighborhood, which was Yonge and Eglinton. And
Yeah.
I was the expert in that. I knew more than the sales reps in the sales office.
If you zoom out, that's called strategy for any
Yeah.
business. So for any of you listening, not even in the real estate space, that is specifically strategy in terms of how you built your business, whether you knew it or not, but you got very clear on what you wanted.
And the other thing that I would say that I did was I had a very strict schedule when I was a brand new agent, and nothing deviated from that. So mornings 9 to 12 was basically my call time. The problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is that their focus starts going into many, many different directions every time something goes ding, 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 right? So like something new and shiny pops up, they're like chasing that. I wasn't doing any of that. I said 9 to 12 is my phone time. Nothing can deviate from that. Setting up a lockbox is not important. That to me is not, I don't even put that in my calendar as work. That's just something that has to get done. So after the call time, it's like sales offices generally open at 12. I'm hoping to line up appointments. And if I don't have appointments, I just keep calling. This was my schedule every day for years, where up to 6 o'clock, I was either in the sales office doing appointments or I was making calls. And I think the volume of calls that I was making is like, you cannot fail from that. If you're making 80 calls a day, like you can't tell me that you're not getting sales. So it was that focus and that discipline of waking up every day and doing the same thing again and again and again, and not being depressed if you've been hung up on 10 times in a row, or feeling deflated and letting that get to you. And at the same time, not being elated with wins, where if I've just sold a unit, I'll be like, oh, you know what? I can chill for a week now because I just made a sale. I was waking up every day and starting my day from zero as if I have nothing in my bank account. So it didn't matter that I'd done 7 sales that first weekend or if I'd done no sales. It's like my schedule didn't deviate. And I think that was the key to the success in the first year.
Yeah, you're describing all the keys to success. How do you develop that mindset of hunger when you've just closed $1 million deal and you've just got paid, and you're going to say, I'm going to go back to the office and work again? Because most people, 80% or even 90% of the people, are going to sit back on their couch and take a day off. So how did you do that? Like,
because I wanted to build a consistent business, and I wanted to build a business that had longevity. And when I look back to the focus that I had all these years, that's what's keeping me in this industry now, where pre-constructions become very slow, and I'm okay because I have over 1,000 closings coming from previous years. So I think I was able to really, really zone in and focus and say, you know what? I know that I'm not going to have this sort of energy 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So I want to make sure that I focus now, where I'm full of life, full of energy. I don't have any distractions. And I kind of didn't shy away from the pressure. So a lot of people take stress and pressure as a negative thing. I use it as fuel to drive me forward. And I said, this is what I'm going to do every day, and not letting anything deviate from that.
Okay, I want to switch over to something fun that I love asking all women about, which is their routine. What does your morning routine look like right now, and do you have one?
Well, right now, my morning routine, I would say, is very different from how it was when I was a solo agent for 6 years.
We're going to talk about both, okay? So
Yeah.
not even just agent routine, but like building entrepreneur routine of what took you to get here. So maybe let's start with that, and then we'll come back to your routine now.
Okay, so when I was a brand new agent, like I said, 9 to 12 is basically prospecting time, and that's when I'm making my calls. After 12, I'm going to those appointments that I've set up, because sales offices are only open 12 to 6. If I did not have any appointments, I would still go there and sit there and make calls from there in hopes that somebody would come, and that was till 6 o'clock. And then after that, I would plan the rest of the day for what am I going to do tomorrow, and then is there any small things that I still need to take care of, like I said, log boxes or admin work or things that are non-income generating. But between 9 and 6, it was always income generating activities, and I didn't deviate from that. And then, we're realtors, we work on weekends as well. So I was doing that like 12 to 5 or 10 to 5 approximately on weekends.
So you're
then.
working 7 days a week?
I was working 7 days a week, but I was loving what I was doing at that time. I loved going to sales offices. I loved meeting people. I didn't think of it as work. So I think if you think of what you're doing as work and you're not enjoying it, then every day is very heavy, and every day you're wanting the day to end. I wasn't ever waiting for a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, because I was actually, I think, living my best life and really, really enjoying. And I think that is one of the keys to success, is really enjoying what you're doing, enjoying entrepreneurship. It's not that I enjoyed real estate. I do enjoy real estate, but I really enjoy entrepreneurship. Being the best version of myself is very important to me. So I was like, how can I elevate to be the best version of Seher that there is? I don't want to be mediocre anymore. I was mediocre for years, and I didn't want to be in that situation anymore.
You wanted to be the best.
I wanted to be the best, and then once you become the best, you need to stay the best.
That's true. Sustainability.
So that's a new pressure that goes on to you,
Yeah.
right? Because now people are expecting a lot from you. Developers are expecting that Huda is going to walk in and sell 10 units, and if you're not, then there's disappointment there.
Okay, let's go back to building again. The pressure at that time, grinding and hustling, is what they call burnout. Did you experience burnout? Did you experience, I don't have time to take care of my health and physical? Because when something goes up, other parts of your life also come down. So let's be very, filters off. What do you think at that time really took a back seat that you look back at now and you're like, oh, damn, I really had to sacrifice this in order to get that?
I would say that I did not sacrifice that much at that time. So I was kind of saying, how can I build around my life? So I'll give you a very, very small example of what I used to do when I was doing my rentals. I obviously had to call and book showings for the units. So I would do that while I'm on the treadmill. I would literally be on the incline and book my showings while I was doing that. If I wanted to grow and listen to a podcast, I'm doing that while I'm doing my makeup. If I want to prepare a speech, I would actually voice record it. If I want to prepare a presentation, voice record and listen to it while I'm driving. So I started to make little hacks into my life of how can I make myself more efficient at the same time as while I'm doing life's tasks. So, and like I said, Fridays, sales offices were closed. That was the only day that I knew for sure I'm not going to have an appointment. And that's the day that I would volunteer at the Tobacco Humane Society. And that's not to say that while I'm there, I can't check my phone and respond to an email. Like you're sitting there and you're just, petting dogs, taking them for a walk. I was still able to take phone calls and so forth. So I didn't let one avenue of my life just completely block something else from happening. I was like, how can I integrate everything that I need to do and still take myself to the level that I need to achieve at work?
You talk like what I hear is like you maximize productivity.
Yeah.
Even when I met you, even now, you're like, I'm getting my hair done, but I'm sending out the emails. And a lot of people don't think that way, right? Like they don't think like, hey, if I'm gonna be stuck in traffic for an hour, what can I do? Can I make that phone call that I'm supposed to have? Can I listen to a podcast? Can I listen to a podcast in my industry specifically teaching me what I need to know?
Yeah.
So like, what are some productivity hacks that you would recommend right now that you think work really well, that saves you time or makes you perform better?
So I never do my hair at home. I go to a salon because I literally can sit there for 45 minutes and get back to like 12, 15 emails. So that's like a small thing that I do. And then the other thing is all the podcasts I want to listen to, the preparation that I do is every morning while I'm doing my makeup, for example. So while I'm driving is when I take calls. Like, I have agents on my team. So sometimes they have issues and they want to talk about like a certain deal and so forth. I schedule all those when I'm driving because those are not generating me income. Those are just things that I have to do as a leader. So I schedule those calls when I'm driving. I know that I have a 1 hour drive back after this. I already have my call scheduled in my phone of who I need to get back to. So it's not about like, let me get back to my computer and then do those. I can do those while I'm on the road. There's some calls you can't do on the road, like if you're going through like price lists and plans and so forth, which you need to be on a computer for. So I kind of figure out like, what can I do while I'm out and about and what do I need to take care of from a laptop or from my desktop at home.
Being in management and being a leader, what has that taught you?
So management and leadership, what has that taught me? I want to surround myself with people who are better than me. So once I started to become successful, I realized that the only way to grow was to have people take care of the things that I don't want to focus my energy on. And I need to delegate as much as possible for tasks that just need to be done that don't require my energy. So one of the things that I started to delegate was marketing, for example. I no longer make my own mailers. I'm no longer making my own websites. I'm no longer posting my own ads. All that is off the table. Training, for example, is now delegated to somebody on my team. So if a new agent comes on or if they want to go through like a project pitch, I have somebody in place for that. Because it's not that I don't want to give them good service. I still want to give them good service. But like, is it something that needs me or is it something that somebody else can do and still achieve the same results? So figuring that part of my business out was very important for me. That what are the 2-3 things in the day that I need to do personally that really moves the needle? That might be developer meetings, retaining some past client relationships and things like that, which I can just hand off. But everything else can be done by somebody else. So figuring that out to make your day productive, but to grow your business forward at the same time was very important.
Yeah, my next question was going to be around scaling, right? Like women build businesses, but you don't hear about women building billion-dollar businesses because the scaling required is something that we are not taught. Things that sometimes are they're kind of like, people gatekeep them or you don't have access to it. So how did you scale your business? How did you go from one agent mentality, not specifically just in the real estate business, but like one agent, one person to think about like, okay, I need to replace myself and like, is there any advice you would give for women looking to scale their business?
I was under the way that I did it was I was like not holding back any secrets. So when people come onto my team, they see everything that we're doing. I teach them how can you generate business the same way that I generated business, and how can you be a replica of me? Because listen, if they're not making money, that means I'm not making money. So my whole perspective is making them as good as they can be, hiring the right people who are willing to grind and obviously who want to learn, because not everybody is open to learning and changing their ways. So I'm looking for people who are adaptable. That's very important, and who are coachable more than anything else. Because a lot of agents are not coachable at all. You can tell them what to do, and they'll still go back and do something completely different. And that really allowed me to scale very well, was surrounding myself with the right people. And then when the wrong people come in, it's a learning curve. I don't think of it as failure. If somebody comes, it doesn't work out, that's okay. It's a step back, but it's still a step forward, because you're learning how to be better the next time. How do you hire better the next time? How do you overcome like a challenge that you couldn't the first time? So there's always that learning curve, but that's just part of being successful.
Yeah. I was going to say, what are you unlearning as a CEO, or what are you still working on as a leader?
So one of the things that I'm unlearning is to let go of the control and to let people elevate themselves and make the mistakes. Because before, I was always under the mindset that we can't make a mistake, everything needs to be perfect, it needs to be done the way that I need to get it done. But then I started realizing, as you scale and as you start doing volume, that you actually need to let the agents make their mistakes. So like a small example was like, in the beginning, I wanted to be part of like the APS Zooms, that the agreement of purchase and sale Zooms that we have with whether it's our clients or their clients. And I was like, the client needs to know exactly like everything the way I want it to be. But then I learned that, listen, the agent might miss a few things, but it's okay, because they need to learn how to do it themselves. And that's really the only way that we can truly grow. So letting go of the fact that everything needs to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, but there is progress. How can your business progress further and further and further? And how can the agents progress further as well?
Letting go is like something that women struggle with, right? Because we want to be in control of everything. Like, we want to be in control of our life. We want to be in control of our decisions. And it's hard to let people make the mistake. So thanks for being transparent about that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my business is still not perfect, Huda, by any means. I feel like I'm still learning every single day. And I think
can you talk to me about that? What are you learning?
So I'm learning how to pivot every single day. So for example, in pre-construction, it's been a very, very tough year. So it's about how do we pivot from the things that we were traditionally doing to now looking at new avenues of recouping business, selling different product to different clients. So we've dived into areas that we've never done before, like international sales. We're diving into new product that we've never looked into, which is like the CMH CMLI program, because traditionally it was always like high-rise condos, GTA. So it's about like pivoting and saying, okay, it's going to be a whole new learning curve and going into a new market, new projects, new investment types, but that's what to do. And then, like I was sharing with you before we started the podcast, now I'm hiring somebody who's going to start managing the resale division and tapping into our database of thousands of investors who might have resale needs. So it's always about like learning how to pivot and move the business forward as times change.
Yeah, things can't stay constant all the time. And I think a trait of a really successable CEO or leader is being able to pivot with time.
Yeah,
right?
if you're not evolving, you're dying.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If you, I wouldn't say redo, but if you look back at your life over the last 10 years, is there anything you would have done differently now that you have the foresight?
I think that I was very lucky because I was able to pick up that mentor very, very fast. And even though it was only like a 2-week stint, but I learned very, very fast. But
you're a fast learner.
A fast learner. But the advice that I would give all new agents is like join a top team and learn from the best, because you'll be able to elevate your growth so exponentially that you can't do on your own. So don't look at it like, oh, I'm going to make less money. And don't focus on the money. Just focus on learning and focus on the work. And the money's just going to be a byproduct. Everybody's always chasing commissions in sales business, but I think you need to chase excellence. And if you can chase excellence, the money will come.
But how do you shift your mindset, especially, let's just say you have someone in scarcity mindset or someone that's struggling to pay bills? They really are looking for that next commission or the next paycheck to get through. So what would you recommend, advice, or say to someone struggling right now someone that's living paycheck to paycheck to have that mindset of excellence, right? They can't see past the fact that they have to pay the next bill. They have to like provide for their kids. How does someone chase excellence in the midst of chaos?
So the one thing that I've done with some of my team members who are like, we want to make X income by the end of the year, and this is what we need to survive, is we've laid out their month by month goal. So they have, you know, a weekly goal and they also have a monthly goal, and we've kind of worked backwards into like, how can we achieve that and get to that number? Even when people come to interview and they say, oh my God, we don't want to give up X amount of commission to you, I say, well, what's your target? What's your target commission that you want to make? And a lot of times they'll say it's $200,000, $250,000. So I say, okay, don't worry about the commission. Just let's focus on the fact that I can take you there. And I think that's where it comes in, because as long as they're hitting and teaching them that as long as you're hitting that number, don't worry about the small stuff, because a lot of agents are thinking, oh, I'm only going to do like 10 deals, so I don't want to give away. But what if you can do 30 deals by being with the right person? So you're willing to give away X because they're willing to contribute 3 times the amount of knowledge to get you to that next level. So it's about coaching the team members and coaching the people around me that the long-term vision is, I'm going to make you meet that number as long as you can do X, Y, Z. And then working backwards.
Yeah.
So every month we kind of have a check-in on like, where are we at with our goals and how do we need to adjust that?
Yeah, they always say reverse engineer the goal, right?
Yes.
And most people are working the opposite way. They're thinking about what's next versus like what is the end goal.
The problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is they don't have a business plan and they're not treating their business like a true business. So for me, the one thing that I did every single day, and I still do to this day, is I have an Excel sheet where I'm literally tracking every single sale, every single deal, every single client, and I'm working backwards and I know what's going on and I'm painting the picture of what does the rest of the quarter look like, what does the rest of the year look like, and if it's not meeting those targets, how can we pivot to make up for it?
Yeah.
So you have to be very on point with your goals, because if you just wake up and you say, oh, hopefully I get a client today, that's not a business model. You just
That's so true.
That's
Do you feel
just
like that's
luck.
how people are operating?
That's how a lot of people are operating. They're just waiting for something to fall into their lap. They want to post a video on social media and think that, oh, hopefully today is the day that somebody will reach out and say, I want to buy real estate. That's not a business model.
What are your thoughts on social media?
I think social media is a great tool if you use it in the right way. So when I look at $1 million mindset, what does the $1 million like version of Seher do? The $1 million version of Seher does not sit there and scroll on social media for 2 hours, but the $1 million Seher is going to post. So, you know, I'm very, very vigilant of the time that I spend. And I think sometimes people get a little bit upset because like they're like, oh, you didn't see that I had a baby on social media? And I'm like, no. And they're like, but you post. Because I post and I'm active, but I'm not actively following a lot of people and scrolling. So I think social media is great for promotion, but you don't want to get stuck in that rut of just constantly checking like the stories and your likes. And people get so hung up on like, oh my God, I posted this video and nothing came out of it. You can't look at social media like that. It's just another tool in your business, but you can't make it everything. So a lot of people will say, you know, I posted this video. I have a lot of agents that I say, you know, can you just post a video every single week on real estate? And they'll say, oh no, I posted a video and only like 4 people liked it. 1 person commented, no deals came out of it. A year has gone by, nobody's bought, on social media through me. But you have to look at it as more brand building. That's the way I think of social media. I'm personally not looking to get clients from there. I'm looking for my clients to go on there and verify who I am. So for me, it's more about brand building and to have that online presence that if somebody like Googles you or searches you, they can see that, okay, she's a top producer. She won this award. She's with this builder here. She's top of sales in this project. That's to me what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of agents will say, oh, we're not going to post because we posted and nobody responds. You can't look at it like that. Do you think Coca-Cola, puts up a billboard and says, oh, how many people drove by and went to the gas station and bought a Coke? It doesn't work like that. They do it for brand awareness. And I think that everybody needs to incorporate social media into their life, but not get caught into the cycle of just letting it consume you and make you upset because like you're not getting the response that maybe another agent is getting.
I like, first of all, I agree 100%. I think social media is a digital resume for
Yeah.
clients to verify you.
Yeah.
And if you are in a service based business, it has to be a tool versus um, an app that you use for socializing. And
Right.
I think what you're saying makes so much sense because if you look at it that way, you're so much more efficient on the actual tool as well. You're
Yeah.
actually using it for what it's built. And I
Yeah.
agree, there's a lot of people that get caught up in the cycle, but if you create a relationship with
Yeah.
social media where the output is not the input is not necessarily for the output, the input is for you to continuously keep building,
Yeah.
but you're not there constantly scrolling and constantly reevaluating your business, right?
Yeah, and people say that it's very time consuming. So I would say the one suggestion for entrepreneurs is maybe you just have a content day and you film all your videos, like 10 videos in one day, and you post them once a week. And that way you're not always like, oh my God, I gotta shoot another video and so forth. Exactly like how you told me you've already shot
Yeah.
20 podcasts and they're ready to go. So it's kind of the same premise, right? So if you
Yeah.
can if you can just block out chunks of your time and say this is like a task that I need to get done, it's not as overwhelming because
Agree.
social media for some people it's very overwhelming to even get started. But if you can say, I'm going to allocate maybe 2 Mondays every month towards social media, and that's when I create all my content. I get ready one time and I
I
change my
agree.
outfits and get it done.
Yeah, content day or even like just to save time. So
Yeah.
I think that's a lot. That's a great way, and I do the same thing. Like one day focus, and you're just so much more better because you're
Yeah.
focused, you're in the zone versus like carrying it through. I want to ask you two last questions before we leave. The next question, I wanted you to take a moment to think about this. But if you could go back to your last, not just the real estate part, but even a little bit before that, coming to this country and where you are now, when you look back, is there like that moment, that bold moment that you're like, Sahara, you made that bold choice, and because of that, it redirected your entire life? What is that bold moment for you?
I think the bold moment for me was after my undergrad deciding to stay because, I had that option of just going back home to my parents and I chose not to. And, when I was told that, well, if you stay, you're not going to have any funds to support you. And I said, I'm going to figure it out on my own. And taking that choice of not taking the comfort to just go back and live at home and end my career right there and saying, I'm gonna risk it and I'm gonna give it everything I can with nothing other than the clothes on my back and make this work. So that was probably the boldest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's super cool. I thought you were gonna say real estate or something, but true, you couldn't have gotten to real estate or any of this without the choice of staying
Yeah, without the choice of staying with no
with
path
nothing.
forward. I had, when I look at what do I have to take me to the path to success, I had no family, I had no network, I had no money, I didn't even know the city. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it took me years to figure out what I wanted to do. But I was willing to take that sacrifice and put the time in to figure out, like, what is it in my life that's really going to excel me?
Yeah.
So while it took a few years, I'm super happy that I did it.
I want to know personally, like, what's next for you? Is it when you look at your real estate career, what you've done, been able to do? Is there something that we all don't know that you want in your life, or what is next for Sahara the next 10 years? Let's say you're
I think that the next 10 years, I want it to be less about me and have the team run in a way that they're not as reliant maybe on me because I still feel that I'm an integral piece. But I really want to build it so that Condo Source becomes a name and those clients are not calling and asking for me, where I can say, this is my agent, Jake, Huda, John, Jane, and they're like happy with being able to deal with them in the same level as they would with me, that they'd stop. So being able to put those elements in place, I think would really, really be like my next step in real estate. And then the other thing would be what to grow my animal charity and help even more dogs and cats every single year and expand on that.
Last question for you before we leave this podcast. Someone told me on this podcast we interviewed last, they said, money or being rich and having wealth or being wealthy are two very separate things. And when I thought about wealth, and even when I named the Wealthy Woman, specifically spelt with well, because at the end of the day, you can have all the money and everything, but if your mind and you're not well, you're not going to be able to thrive for too long. It might
Yeah.
be an act in the middle. So when you think of your wealthy life, what does a wealthy life look like to Seher? what does that wealthy life look like to you?
So, wealthy life for me is not about the digits in your bank account, it's about the freedom that it allows me. So, for me specifically, like I said, my passion and my purpose is to like serve the community and really help animals. And it's not just helping animals, now I'm actually volunteering with my dog Pablo, who I adopted in jails. We're going to jails to rehabilitate prisoners so that they come out better, not bitter. We're going to schools, working with children who are under stress during exam time. He's working in nursing homes, helping old people who haven't had family visit them in years, who are feeling very lonely. So, that wealthy life for me is having the success and now having a business that allows me the freedom to do things that really, really matter and give back to society. So it's giving back to the animals in Mexico, giving back to the community here, being able to help the charity and things like that, and really having that purpose in my life and being able to say that I am able to now follow my true passion.
I lied. I thought that was the last question, but you're the only guest I'm going to ask a follow-up question to. How do you do it all? I asked you this question. I remember when you, me, and Sherry went for lunch. The automatic response when you see women that is doing everything is like, oh, she might not have that many friends, or, maybe she's not taking care of her health, or just like this notion of something must be suffering. And I was very shocked to hear your answer that you show up present in all aspects of your life. So the $1,000,000 question to you is like, how do you do it all? Like for real, like how can someone do it all or do whatever they are doing on their plate a bit better with a lot more grace and presence and joy in their life versus trying to always manage and be in like chaotic mode?
Yeah, by having my schedule a month in advance. So I know that there's friends that I want to see, but you know what? I have to limit my time. I say 1 day a month is the day that I'm going to meet this person. 1 day next month is when I'm going to meet this person. I know when my trips are with all the builders, and that's all allocated. I know when my clients, so just having a very, very strict schedule allows me to do that. And I have my workouts booked in there. Sometimes I try and make that efficient by doing 2 workouts back to back so I can skip the next day. So it's just about really managing the calendar really, really well and making sure that I'm not just living in that space of being busy. A lot of people just say, I'm busy, but actually they're just being unproductive. So they might be in the office for 8 hours, but are they able to achieve all that really if they focus in 3 hours and maybe spend the other 5 hours doing something else? So it's about how do you bring those efficiencies into your life? How can you automate what doesn't need your attention? How can you delegate what doesn't need your attention to be able to buy back your time? So I think by buying back my time and putting staff in place, putting agents in place has really allowed me now the freedom to pursue, my true passion.
I just want to say, like, women, if you're listening to this, the question that I just asked is, I think a lot of people's response would be like, oh, I would, meditate, or I go inwards, or she just gave you a tactical piece of advice that you can implement. Like, you can't have it all unless and until you plan and put the effort to having a schedule and calendar that works for your life. And that means not just your business, but like the fact that you schedule in your workout, that is having it all. When you can schedule your workout, when you know you're getting in your me time to focus on your wellness, and then you have money-making activities, which is running your business, and then you have it on your calendar on a Sunday going out for brunch with your girlfriends.
Yeah.
That's basically a very healthy way of having it all when you are not running all over the place and you've got something to follow, like a guideline. So thank you for that advice. That's actually great.
Yeah. And
Like,
the other
no
thing,
bullshit advice, and like not a bullshit response to like, how do you have it all? Oh, well, I just like, it's not one of those. It's like, okay, I have it all because I fucking schedule my shit.
yeah.
And
I think a very, very important piece of advice that I would give to all entrepreneurs out there, and something that I've been doing my entire career, is having a business coach. So even to this day, I'm always growing and evolving. And I think that's very, very important. My business coach call is it's at 8 a.m. on Mondays, every 2 weeks. And it really keeps me grounded, on track, on schedule. And we talk about all the challenges that I have, because all day I'm fixing other people's problems, whether it's the team, whether it's clients. I don't have anybody to go to, the team comes to me, but who do I go to, right? So I have my business coach who's my mentor now, who I can take my problems to, and it really keeps me on track. And I would suggest everybody in sales, to have somebody like that in your life and invest in yourself. So a lot of people don't want to spend, the $1,000 or whatever it's going to cost. But I'd say that would be the biggest thing that's really helped me elevate and buy back my time, because I get the strategies that I need to do to keep pivoting and making things work for me.
Yeah, the investment back is like 10x.
Yeah.
With what you just shared.
Yeah.
Thank you, Seher, for being on the podcast. You heard it from the queen herself. We talked productivity, we talked money, we talked wellness, and how to actually have it all. Thank you for being a guest and coming on.
Thanks, Huda, for having me. It was great.